Dr. Mandaben Parikh, Shri Kumar Prashant, Mayank Bhai Upadhyay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are present here, some of the most distinguished Gujaratis, Prakash Bhai, Kumar Bhai are here. My friends, very dear friends, some of them are here. My wife, Ami, who is also present here. She generally likes to. So thank you. It's very satisfying to see that this evening we have so many people, because human rights is an issue where there is a lovely story, where people are little, I would say, apathetic towards discussing or listening about it. So there was this big seminar which was organized one day on human rights, and a very distinguished professor was invited to deliver the lecture. So when the professor reached this hall, which was very big, he found that hall was empty except for one person who was sitting inside. So he was very surprised, shocked. But being a professor and having been invited to deliver this lecture on human rights, he decided to continue to deliver his lecture. And he said, what does it matter if there is only one person listening? I don't mind, I will. So he gave the lecture. And after his lecture, he walked up to the gentleman to thank him. Before he could thank him, the gentleman got up and said, don't thank me because I am the next speaker. So it is very heartening to see, so many distinguished Ahmedabadis here. Namaste to all of you. It is an honor to be here. Ramlal Bhai Parikh was one of the greatest Gujaratis ever to be born, who contributed immensely. અને મારે માટે ખૂબ ગૌરવની વાત છે કે રામલાલભાઈ વડોદરામાં જન્મ્યા હતા અને હું પણ વડોદરામાં જન્મ્યો હતો. So it is but his contribution is, if you read his story, life story, it's amazing how these, individuals could contribute so much to the nation. He did doctorate. He did doctorate in peace education from South Korea, if I mistake not. So, and at the age of 14, he participated in the freedom struggle. Now, that was the kind of love that, people had for this country. And of course, all his life, he worked, for his principles. He was a great disciple of Gandhiji. And for a number of years, almost, I think, 40 years, he continued to guide the Gujarat Vidyapith in one position or the other. The number of honors that he received is impossible to even describe, because he had received so many honors in his life that, it was amazing. So this is the man for whom we are sitting here today, reminiscing, and so when Mandaben invited me and asked me what subject I should speak to, I said I must decide a subject which is boring for the people who are going to come. And I chose this subject, which I think is of paramount importance today. Although it may appear to be a little serious, but basic human values under the Constitution of India. આજે દેશને સૌથી વધારે જો જરૂરત હોય તો I think human values ને restore કરવાની છે. અને માટે it is important that these issues are discussed. કારણ કે આજે દેશમાં આનું કોઈ લોકોને એક જાતની some kind of an aversion has taken place against the Constitution of India. આપણે virtually Constitution ને ભૂલી ગયા છીએ. Human rights and basic human values are, virtually forgotten. We have been gripped by ritualism and materialism, which is really taking us onto a different level of life. 5,000 years of history, this is absolutely unacceptable. And being, whatever you may say, but our religion, Hindu religion, like all other religion, whether it's Jainism, Buddhism, Islam, or Christianity, or Sikhism, but Hinduism teaches us a way of life. And one of the most important aspects of that way of life in Hinduism is the human values. And a values, aje je compromise thai gayi che, that is very important. But I must tell you कि लगभग 200 વર્ષની ગુલામી under the Britishers we suffered. Before that, almost 800 years of Islamic rule we went through. So freedom struggle, which started, of course, with the 1857 mutiny, and did not really become, very active. But from the 1920s, and certainly after return of Gandhiji from South Africa in 1929, it became 1915. It became extremely active, and But this freedom struggle, this is what we have forgotten. Millions of Indians sacrificed themselves in the freedom struggle. Millions of them. Gandhi himself spent almost 6.5 years in jail, if I mistake not. Nehru was in jail for 11 years. Millions of people sacrificed their liberty. Millions of people sacrificed their peace of life. And millions donated their wealth and resources for this country. We have, in last just about 77 years, completely forgotten. We are willing to talk about 5,000 years of history, but we are not willing to talk about this great freedom struggle which got us freedom, real freedom. And that is something very important for us, that it is freedom which really enabled us to become free and to enjoy these basic human values. So, the struggle in 1946, the Constituent Assembly was conceived under a British law, of course, but Constituent Assembly comprising of 299 great Indian men and women, they debated the Constitution of India for almost 2.5 years. And they gave us one of the finest documents which world can ever, see, the Constitution of India. This aspect, of the background of the Constitution of India is extremely important for us to remember. So, American Constitution was drafted in just about 4 months. But our Constitution, they deliberated, these people, for such a long time. The basic feature of this Constitution is, of course, the sovereign democratic republic. Mrs. Gandhi, of course, added the word socialist and, secularism much later in 1976. But sovereign democratic republic was, the foundation of the ideals of the Constitution framers. So they were wondering what to do, how to put the basic values into the Constitution. And in one paragraph, they have put these basic human values, which are called the preamble, prastavna. This preamble is absolutely a work of genius, which comprised of some great people. And then, of course, these basic values were also solidified by Fundamental Rights chapter. And none other than Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was the advisor to the Fundamental Rights Subcommittee. So it's very important that today a lot of people speak about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, make their statues, but have forgotten that it was Sardar who gave us these rights, which are not being, unfortunately, which are not being recognized today, the rights much less respected. So these pillars of the Constitution, or the values in the preamble, and this is for citizens. It's very interesting. When they drafted the Constitution, they used the words, we, the people of India, give ourselves this Constitution. So, everybody who is born subsequent to the framing of the Constitution can feel proud that the Constitution is given by him. The Constitution belongs to him. This is a document which was, we, the people of India, give ourselves this Constitution of India. So what are these preamble or basic values, basic fundamental values which should govern the nation? This is not for us alone. This is for the rulers. And the rulers have to always remember that these human values have to be respected, come what may. The first is justice, social, economic, and political. Justice is most important, because if a society is unjust, then I think there is nothing worth living in that society. So they said, first and foremost, the human value is justice. Of course, the judicial system, as we know today, has forgotten the word justice, and it is guided by the word injustice. Liberty, second, they said, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. So, this is just look at the width of these rights: liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of belief, liberty of faith, and liberty of worship. Today, we are seeing, the kind of division that we are seeing in society amongst the people. It is so unfortunate that we are being divided on more than one basis. It's whether it's caste, whether it's creed, whether it's religion, but the divisions are constantly apparent in society today. The third most important aspect that they gave us was equality of status, opportunity, both equality of status and equality of opportunity. Because people, for thousands of years, there are people who have not got the opportunity that many of us have got. So they said that there must be an equality of status. And last, most of all, they said promotion of fraternity amongst all, brotherhood of men. Now, these are the four essential principles, and I call them the basic fundamental human values recognized by the Constitution. And it's very important that each one has a place in our lives on a day-to-day basis. We all know that for centuries, there is a rule of law is the most important aspect of, and there is an individual and there is a state, and there is a constant conflict between the individual and the state about the individual claiming the rights and the state trying to trample upon those rights. So from the time liberty was thought, there has been a constant conflict between the citizens and the rulers. And the rulers have always tried, whenever citizen has tried to speak up or say something which was unpleasant, to really target the citizen, detain him, stop him from speaking up. So this was the basis, and the freedom fighters had all experienced this during the British rule. The British rule was, unimaginable. We can't imagine today, at least those of us who have been born after 1950. We cannot imagine the kind of atrocities which were committed by the British on our people. Today we are worried about what's happening in the country. But at that time it was 10, 100, maybe 1,000 times worse than what we are experiencing today. So they put all their pain, their sorrow, their experiences while drafting the Constitution. And that's something which is very important for us too. Nehru said that we are at an end of era when they were drafting this. And he said, we are at an end of an era, and possibly very soon we shall embark upon a new age. And my mind goes back to the great past of India, to the 5,000 years of India's history, from very dawn of that history, which might be considered almost dawn of the human history till today. This is how he started the debate on the objective resolution. The objective resolution which led to the preamble was drafted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, but it was modified substantially. But it was debated for almost 4 days by the Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly sat for 141 days approximately, and 114 days they debated Constitution. Not like today where the bills are passed in Parliament and legislatures with just voice vote without any discussion whatsoever. I am very, for example, these farm laws were passed without any discussion. They were withdrawn without any discussion. So, but these men and women were committed to the future of India, to the future generations. And this is what they did. Different sections of the country have been given autonomy. And, history of India as a whole remains one with full sovereignty. We shall stand united in affairs which demand our unity, declared Purushottam Lal Tandon. I'm going to give you how they thought about the preamble. Mr. Jaikar, one of the strongest right-wing Hindu leaders at that point of time, he said, this is very touching. Some friends touch me to the quick by saying that all my life, having been a champion of Hindu interest, I now propose to support and placate the Muslims. While discussing the preamble, he is saying this. He says, some friends touched me to quick by saying that all my life, having been a champion of Hindu interest, I now propose to support and placate the Muslim. In reply, I said that I saw no conflict between the two. Because I support Hindu interest, it does not mean that I should trample upon what I consider to be just rights of another community. Now, these are the people. I mean, we have completely forgotten, what level of what hearts they had, what love they had. Something which is missing today in this country is love and empathy. But these are people who had it. Krishna Sinha, one of the other, very respected leaders, said, but with the lapse of time, conception of society and life have changed. Men came to believe that every individual has an equal right to liberty and happiness. With this change, a change in structure of the state became necessary. We must tear down, look at his words, we must tear down the political edifice which owes its existence in India to the Government of India Act 1935, a monument of constitutional jugglery, and build on a republic of the type which this resolution envisages, whatever may be the difficulties that may come in the way. Now, we saw the other day a sitting High Court judge giving a speech in a seminar in Haryana saying that Constitution of India is based on the 1935 Government of India Act. Now, how, ignorant he must be that he said that, because the 1935 Government of India Act dealt with only the powers of the British. It didn't recognize fundamental rights. It didn't recognize the preamble. It didn't recognize the directive principles of state policy. So, this is the kind of ignorance we have today because we have not been able to understand our constitutional framers. Mr. Minu Masani, again a very powerful leader of that time who later became Swatantra Party leader, as we all know. He said, this resolution envisages for reaching social changes, social justice in the fullest sense of the term. But it works for those social changes through mechanism of political democracy and individual liberty. He didn't want to compromise the individual liberty. He wanted individual liberty to be respected side by side with that development, that attainment of sovereignty. He asked a question to himself. The central problem of our time is whether the state is to own the people or the people are to own the state. Today, that's exactly what's happening. We have all become, subjects of the state. No, we own the state, we the people of India. They don't own us. But that's exactly what he asked in 1946, December. He says, central problem of our times is whether the state is to own the people or the people are to own the state. Now this is, the level of thinking, the love for, future generation. Whether the state belongs to the people, the state is a mere instrument, subordinate to the people, and it serves the people, he said. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, again, another respected leader whom Bharatiya Janata Party respects immensely. So far as the resolution is concerned, it has a deep and special significance. He said it has a deep and special significance. Those who are wanting to attack Constitution today, who want to change the Constitution, who are dreaming, of course it will never happen. Fortunately, Indians will never accept that. He says, we shall go ahead with our work in spite of all difficulties and obstacles and help create a great India, united, strong, motherland of not this community or that community, not this class or that class, but of every person, man, woman and child, irrespective of race, caste, creed or community, where everyone will have equal opportunity, equal freedom and equal status. This is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. I mean, just imagine this. When I read these people, and I have a habit of reading Constituent Assembly debates virtually every day for a little while. They, Dr. Hansa Mehta, again a very respected Gujarati and former Chancellor of Baroda University, MS University. It will warm the heart of many a woman to know. It will warm the heart of many a woman to know that free India will mean not only equality of status, but equality of opportunity. The average woman in this country has suffered now for centuries from inequalities heaped on them by laws, customs, and practices of people who have fallen from the heights of that civilization of which we are all proud. And I dare say that 77 years later, the lot of women has not substantially improved in this country. We still are a feudal nation. We still treat our women very differently than what we should. There is no equality even today. Amongst the classes which are suffering are not just Dalits and minorities, but women. And women comprise almost 50% of our population. So we have to understand this. But this is what she had hoped at that point of time. Dr. Jaipal Singh said that he speaks on behalf of millions of unknown hordes, the original people of India, the tribals. Now just see what this man representing the tribals tells us. You cannot teach democracy to the tribal people. You have to learn democratic ways from them. You cannot teach democracy to tribal people. You have to learn the democratic ways from them. What my people require, sir, is not adequate safeguards. They require protection from ministers. That is the position today. This is in 1947 when there was an interim government in the states. As you know, after the 30s, many states had governments, and the Congress party was ruling in most states. So this is and today we all know how tribals are being impacted by development. We have no idea. I mean, we have this race of development where we want to dig every forest and every mountain, not realizing that they belong to the tribals. They are the original people of this country. So that sustainable development is something which we have to seriously think about. Mr. Velayadu, Srimati Velayadu, quoted the meaning of saying, I believe in pure constitutional rule. Throughout my life, I have sedulously cultivated. She quoted a Maharaja of Cochin. I forget. The Maharaja of Cochin, she quotes, and Maharaja has these words. This is in the early 20th century. I believe in pure constitutional rule. And throughout my life, I have sedulously cultivated an attitude towards life and institutions which are antipathetic to autocracy and personal rule. Now just see, this is a Maharaja of Cochin speaking. We all know the history of Maharaja Sayajirao of Baroda. Again, he was an extremely refined ruler, very forward thinking, who brought women's education, made it compulsory in the early 20th century, and who would never take more than what was fixed for him at the beginning of the year as his personal expense. He will never draw from the treasury any extra money. He was the one who sent Ambedkar for education. He is the one who set up this fantastic university on the lines of Cambridge and Oxford. And you have to see today the pathetic neglect of those fantastic buildings. I mean, as a child, I remember when I became conscious of looking at the buildings, maybe in early 1960s. Those buildings were absolutely brilliant. And today, the way they are repairing them and the way they are painting them, it's, the whole culture. Dr. Radhakrishnan, who gave a philosophical angle to the resolution, objective resolution, says, what is a republic? We cannot say that republican tradition is foreign to to the genius of India. Panini, Megasthenes, and Kautilya refer to republics of ancient India. Ultimate sovereignty rests with moral law. Ultimate sovereignty rests with moral law, morality, which is singularly missing today. It's the biggest victim today in India. So he says, ultimate sovereignty rests with moral law, with the conscience of humanity. We need to awaken that conscience. We need Vivekananda. Our conscience today, we have, I think, put a lid over it. So there is no conscience which is, willing to question what is happening around us. So he says, ultimate sovereignty rests with moral law, with the conscience of humanity. People as well as kings are subordinate to that. People as well as kings are subordinate to that. Dharma, the righteousness, is the king of kings. Dharma, the righteousness, is the king of kings. So that he said, this is what his vision was, that we will have a rule where these rights will be respected by the kings as also by the people. He says, he quotes a very interesting this thing. Even a kakoni jivti chiraya balimesha bhunki. Even a crow lives long on crumbs. Even a crow lives long on crumbs. It's all right today, for us to proudly say that we are giving, free ration to 81 plus crore people, as Prime Minister declares in the 2024 election manifesto of the party. But is that enough? Or should we bring them up on their feet so that they can, earn their livelihood, they can, make, decisions in their life? We don't want to. As he rightly says, even a crow lives on crumbs. We don't want people to live on crumbs. Now that's something which Sri Alagiri Shastri quoted Rig with him. He says, all human beings are equal. The king should have the same regard for all his subjects as mother has for her sons. Now, do we see that from our rulers today? They whiz past us, stopping us, by going at 100 kilometer speed with convoys of police in front and behind us. They don't treat us like sons. They treat us like aliens. Now, this is what, is important. High human ideal of Rigved should be followed. Devhitam yada yuhe, he said. This is how the constitutional framers gave recognition to basic human values. These were their ideas. This is what they had in mind. Incorporating them into the preamble as fundamental aims and objectives. So, but this was not enough to Ambedkar, because Ambedkar and his colleagues in the drafting committee were very clear that it's good enough to put as the ideals of the state and that these are the moral values. But how do you give people a right so that these values are respected and people are respected, their dignity is respected? So they framed the chapter on fundamental rights. And as I said, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was the advisor to that committee. And some of these, rights like Article 14, you cannot discriminate, equality. It's a protection to us. It's an amazing, piece of, absolutely amazing, one article which Supreme Court over last 77 years has interpreted it very positively and said that it just doesn't give, a negative impact, because the words are, state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protection of the laws within the territories of India. So it was negatively worded. But Supreme Court said, no, it has a positive impact. So state shall give these facilities to the citizens. State shall do this. State shall do that. So over the years, Article 14 has become one of the most beautiful part of our constitution right. Article 19, which protects various rights like freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble, freedom to form association, to move freely in India, to reside anywhere, and to practice any profession, or business, or trade, or calling. Now, these articles were, brilliantly conceived by them. Most of all, is Article 21. Article 21 says protection of life and liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. What do we see today in our country? Without any voice being raised. Encounters. Over 1,000 people have been killed in Uttar Pradesh after Yogi Adityanath took over as chief minister. Uh, Judiciary has not decided that they were guilty. They were never brought before the courts. The police just picks them up and kills them. We've seen in our own state large number of people having been killed between 2002 and later on in encounters. Now, if Article 21 gives us a right, protection, absolute protection of life and liberty, how is it that it is happening? Today, hundreds and hundreds of people, like, one unfortunate, condemnable terrorist strike took place in Delhi. We must all condemn terrorism. And I am one of those who strongly believes that terrorism must be tackled, firmly. But you cannot arrest 1,500 people in Jammu and Kashmir. You first said that you knew about the conspiracy. You are unable to prevent the conspiracy. You are unable to prevent the deaths of innocent people. You are unable to protect. While every politician is protected by 50, 100, 200, 500 or 1,000 policemen. Citizens are left at their mercy. But then you visit on innocent people and arrest them left, right and center. Today, to go to court, believe you me, if any one of us here were to be arrested with one charge that we have acted against this nation, this country, no court in India will dare give us bail. That is the state of affairs today. That is the state of affairs. We just cannot speak anything against the state. Now, this was not what was contemplated when Article 21. Liberty is so beautiful and liberty has to be protected. You cannot allow liberty to be tinkered with because, you have certain ideas about absolutism. No, we are not an autocratic nation. We are not a dictatorship and we don't want to be one. We are a democracy. We are a republic. And in republic and a democracy, every right must be protected. So, this... Then, of course, they gave Article 25 and 26, which is now much under controversy because it gives freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, right to manage religious affairs. Everybody is saying that why give these rights to the minority community? Very few people know today that it was again Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who chaired the minority subcommittee rights. And Sardar says at the end, when he presented the report, that as a Hindu, you should put yourself in the shoes of a Muslim and realize how you would feel if you were being discriminated against as we are discriminating against. He says you must therefore create a situation where minority members are accepted, and ultimately, as if that happens, then minority will have no reason to exist as a minority. It will become part of the majority. So it is this Sardar Patel, who is now a hero of certain ideology. But Sardar was a very different man. We should all be proud of a man like him, who not only consolidated India into one political map out of 600 princely states. 600 princely states. British government was not willing to discuss that. It was Sardar who called each one of them Sham, Dam, Bhed and Dand. And he persuaded all of them to sign accession to India. But it was Sardar who gave us these rights. Because he knew that we must have everybody, thousands of years of history of India, irrespective of religion. Jainism was born. What a beautiful religion. Buddhism was born. Islam came, Christianity came, Sikhism is born into India. Each of these religions at given point of time had a supremacy. When Ashoka, the great emperor, was there, he followed the state religion was Buddhism. And he did initially discriminate against the Hindus. After taking over, it said that he killed almost 50,000 Brahmins overnight. But it survived the test of time. It survived the test of time, and each of these religions, one of the members, Jerome D'Souza, says very beautifully. He says, because we believe, and that is the implication of this chapter of fundamental rights, that man has certain rights that are inalienable. These are natural rights. These are, these are God's given rights. When we get birth as a human being, or even as an insect, or as a bird, or as an animal, every living being gets certain rights. Those are natural rights. So he says, man has certain rights that are inalienable. Nobody can take these rights away from them. That cannot be questioned by any humanly constituted legislative authority. Parliament has no right to touch it. During emergency, they said we will suspend the fundamental rights. You can't go to Supreme Court or High Court for enforcement of fundamental rights. And four learned justices, including great Justice Bhagwati, said yes, government is right, presidential order is correct. It was H.R. Khanna who stood, one man alone, and said no, these rights are untouchable. They are sacrosanct. And he gave a powerful dissent which is worth reading. But judges like Senior Chandrachud, Bhagwati, they all failed us. They all failed us. And, they all proclaimed themselves to be liberal judges, socialist judges. But they didn't stand up for us, the people, when the time. And ultimately, when you test the judiciary, when the testing time comes, when, ordinary it's okay. But at a time of test, if judges are not willing to stand up, then democracy is not safe in this country. And that's what is really happening today. That's exactly what is happening today. That our judges are just not able to stand up. And having been a lawyer for 48 years, I can definitely say that things are now gone almost beyond repair. So Jerome D'Souza says, to my mind, sacredness of individual personality to the claims of his conscience are spiritual. These are spiritual. Oh, balance between individual liberty and social control is well balanced. That is the greatness of our constitutional framers. But liberty of person, and this is what I believe, liberty of person, his basic values have, since the consciousness of civil liberties, come upon people as the main battleground of the autocrats and the opponents. The autocrat has always wished, whenever he was bankrupt of any other argument, just to shut up those who did not agree with him. Slightest difference of opinion was expressed. The only course adopted was to imprison and detain persons. However good the constitution is, this is what is important for us to remember. It is very easy to pervert it by merely changing the form of the government. It's not necessary to amend the constitution. Just change the form of the government, as we are witnessing today. The government which is supposed to be liberal, the government which is supposed to, be kind, if the government, the functioning of the government becomes ruthless, then naturally, the democracy is in danger. So you have not changed the constitution. Without changing the constitution, you have merely changed the form of the government. And this is, a very serious issue. We are today witnessing this change in the form of the government as we did during the emergency. That was a declared emergency. We have now an undeclared emergency. So we can see citizens being killed in encounters, homes of citizens being demolished by bulldozers. It's something extraordinary. There is no punishment called bulldozing anybody's home in the penal code, period. And if that punishment was given, it would be barbaric. I can assure you that punishment will be declared unconstitutional. Because for one accused, you cannot punish the family. You are now visiting the consequences on the parents, on the sister, on the brother, or other children living in that home. But it's now become a fashion to go and demolish homes as and when some little trouble starts. Trouble is bound to take place because, we have all become intolerant. Even in our homes, we may have differences. with our brothers, with our sisters, or with our spouses. But we don't visit them with these kind of consequences. So the communities have differences and bound to have differences. Nothing wrong about differences. But to do this, I feel that we condemned, the Sharia punishments as barbaric. Rightly so. We are indulging in the same today. We are indulging in the same. That's a matter of great sadness. I mean, what must be these constitutional framers thinking? What must Sardar Patel be thinking that I gave the rights to the minority community, I protected them, and look what is happening today in my country. Free speech and expression are under rising challenge. Not just opponents and critics, but even stand-up comedians are not spared. Jail and not bail has become the norm, even in our courts, in place of bail and not jail principle. The rule is jail is an exception, bail is the rule. We have forgotten completely today. We have no idea about that. Our judges, right from the lowest court to the Supreme Court, are insisting that you must be in jail because you are presumed to be guilty. The law is you are presumed to be innocent. That's a fundamental principle of criminal jurisprudence. The burden being on prosecution to prove during trial. In America, the worst, or even in Europe, the worst of the criminal, even a murderer, even a rapist, will be released on bail immediately with certain conditions, unless he is likely to flee the country. But here, it's something. Justice has virtually vanished, thanks only to archaic, lethargic, inefficient, and somewhat corrupt judiciary. Fraternity, brotherhood of men, is under severe attack with Dalits, minorities, and women bearing the brunt. Land of Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Mahavir, Gandhi, and Vivekananda has become shorn of love and empathy. This is a great country. This is a great heritage. This is a great culture. And one of the most fundamental aspects that we have is, in every religion, is, love, truth. I mean, this is something which is really bothering me, but particularly. To me, there is a very beautiful words of Tagore which come to my mind. Tagore says in this beautiful poem, "Go not to the temple to put flowers upon the feet of God. First fill your own house with the fragrance of love and kindness. Go not to the temple to light candles before altar of God. First remove the darkness of sin, pride, and ego from your heart. Go not to the temple to bow down your head in prayer. First learn to bow in humility before your fellow men and apologize to those you have wronged. Go not to the temple to pray on bended knees. First bend down to lift someone who is downtrodden and strengthen the young ones, not crush them. Go not to the temple to ask for forgiveness for your sins. First forgive them from your heart, those who have hurt you." Now, this is the level of love that Tagore speaks about. And we all know in his famous poem, he spoke about the awakening of this country on when we attained freedom. But all that is forgotten. Unfortunately, this uh, this is and I'll just tell a story which my wife doesn't like, but I must repeat it with a slight modification. What is India's problem today? So there is a story. एक बार ब्रह्मा जी बैठा था शांति थी, Lord Brahma, and all the people of the world went to him and complained to him that Brahma ji, you have given everything to Bharat, India, beautiful rivers, big mountains, lovely forests, long shorelines, everything that nature could give, you have given to India. Why discriminate? So Brahmaji smiled and told them that, but see the leaders I have given India. So our problem today is this, the leadership. We need, Gautam Buddha, we need Mahavir, we need Shankaracharya, we need Gandhi, we need Vivekanand. Unless we have them, it's going to be impossible for us to have that awakening, which is, so seriously required in this country. So this, in my respectful view, is the situation that this country is facing today. That while we do have the the most beautiful values enshrined in our constitution, they have now become virtually on the paper, and we are forgetting them. Citizens are not really standing up for them, and of course, those who are in power have no respect for them. So, thank you very, very much for listening to me, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Thank you, Vandaben. It's been an honor. Thank you, Kishore Saab. You have been here as a presiding this function, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Thank you.